need to know to be the jack of all, to know everything. But I do want to be an entrepreneur in my life, like, or at least follow that path of like working on something, on a project that is useful to the world, and make it come to life, and make a profit out of it, I guess. Get the big reward.
Yeah.
And it is extremely difficult. Like this morning, I was listening to a podcast like of an entrepreneur. Like, have you know Shark Tank?
Yeah, I do.
Kevin O'Reilly. He's like one of the shark,
Oh,
and like,
really?
yeah,
Hmm.
and he's an engineer, businessman. I think his bachelor was engineering, and he did something in mass in business.
Hmm.
But he created a company with other people where like they made this invention and they sold it. They sold the company for like billions of dollars,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that's how he made his money.
Yeah, and that's why he can afford to just hop on Shark Tank and
Y- Yeah, and invest
criticize
in
other
things.
people's ideas all day.
Yes,
Hmm.
and I he was explaining how extremely difficult it is, like being in that path of uncertainty, like where you could invest 5 years of your life and it might just not work.
Yeah.
Like you did it for nothing, like no money, nothing was earned from that.
Yeah,
And
I think
this,
what scares me more is if you do that for like 5 years and you end up worse off than when you started.
yes,
That's horrible. Or like maybe you're
yeah,
in debt now or something.
a lot of people do end up like that.
Yeah.
But again, it's I carefully study these people, I guess their lives, just to get a grasp of how difficult my dreams are. And they are extremely difficult, and it just makes me understand like how much more knowledge I need.
Yeah. I
Like
do
I
think,
need what?
well, I do think that's the first step to getting over it, though, is assessing it realistically, right?
Yeah,
Or like, if you're gonna do it right now, you're on the path to doing it.
yeah. It's
And
not
like,
gonna happen
it's
overnight.
still a chance, like, there's still a chance, like, you're never gonna make it, or something's gonna go wrong, or you're gonna invest like 10 years into something that'll blow up. But if anyone can do it, it's probably
Yeah.
you. You have the
Uh,
energy in for it too. Like clearly, it's pretty much like entrepreneurship has been like the one thing that you've been consistently talking about since I met you.
I know, but also like it scares me because you just understand like when you again like if you dream big, it's easy to sit on your bed and to lay on your bed and imagine how success look like.
Yeah,
And most of the time when you think about that success, you are like you see a younger self. Like I see me at 22 on a stage receiving like a prize or something, and I'm like, it's gonna take much longer than that.
yeah,
It might go on into your 40s. And,
mm,
and my dad is a serial entrepreneur. He made 7 companies
mm,
before actually making the one that actually worked.
yeah,
Like it was long and it was hard. And he wasn't in the United States, which has like an easier pathway for like entrepreneurship.
yeah,
He was like in socialist Ivory Coast, which is corrupt and all this stuff. So it took decades to get the success he wanted. And again, like
mm,
he's still working on that in his 50s. And I'm like, what I'm asking is difficult.
yeah,
Uh, you always ask yourself, like, should I just get a job and get a salary and like
yeah.
live a
Like,
normal life?
should I just like live the peasant life instead of trying
Yeah,
to become like a king or a duke or something? Yeah.
it's not even. I don't know. I'll kill myself if I don't do that. If I don't
Mm.
try.
Yeah, two things. First thing is if you actually succeed, in creating a business like that, few people attempt, and even fewer actually succeed to do that. And the people that do succeed are providing something for the people around them, right? Like something
Yeah,
very, very tangible and real. They're providing livelihoods, they're providing jobs, they're stimulating the economy. Like that's huge, you know.
yeah,
Um, so that's something you can look forward to, is that it's not just that you're rewarding yourself, you're rewarding the people that you choose to hire if you
yeah,
eventually get to that point as well, you know?
yeah,
And you have the power to reward people like that. So that's one thing. And then, let's see, what was the second thing? Oh, yeah. Just make sure that you don't fixate too hard on the end goal, I would say.
yeah,
Because, like you said, you may never even hit the end goal, or it may take like decades before you hit the end goal. And so I would just make sure that at least a little bit along the way, if you can, try to enjoy the process, you know, or
yeah,
like try to enjoy the anticipation, right? Of
yeah,
being like, one day I'm going to make this work out. Or like, one day I'm going to make something work out and it's going to feel good, you know?
yeah. And again, one of the reason I think that I can do it for a long time is because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or at least anything else seems like a waste of my time.
Mm.
It's like sometimes I have doubt about studying ID. I'm like, oh my god, these people were engineer. Should I have had studied engineering? And I'm like, no.
Nah.
Like,
Yeah.
should I have learned how to code? Like, all my friends are coding. Like, the people that are successful are coding. And I'm like, should I be in IT in the first place? And I'm like, yes, because that is the only thing I'm willing to pull a all-nighter for.
Dude,
Like
I
the
tell you, I am so glad every day that I am not coding or I'm not some kind of biochemist or engineer or something. Like
yeah,
I am perfectly content with this major. And I've never once looked at another major and been like, "Man, I wish I was over there."
yes,
That has never happened to me because whenever I look at a major, it's either something that seems like it wouldn't challenge me at all and I wouldn't really learn that much, or it seems like something that would challenge me, but my heart wouldn't really be in it, and I wouldn't be putting my best foot forward half the time. And also, I think the main bottom line for me is that I wouldn't be learning the skill sets I want to learn. And
yes,
In ID, I am learning the skill sets I want to learn, you know?
yeah,
And they again, they teach you so many things, and so many things are important to doing ID correctly that you can literally use ID as an excuse to learn anything you want to know,
yeah,
right? Like, I can use ideas as an excuse to learn coding or any kind of physics or any kind of chemistry, or, you know, the sky is pretty much the limit on that stuff, you know? Whereas, like, if I
I
was an engineer and I decided I wanted to learn like chemistry. I guess it kind of makes sense, but it's not super critical to my job, right?
yeah. Oh my god, you you know like Mark Cuban too. He's also in Shark Tank,
Yeah,
and he made his money by creating streaming. Essentially, they were the first one, like Netflix, and like essentially everything we do today is streaming something. They
yeah.
were the first one. Him and his company were the first one to make that framework of how this thing work. How could you watch a Netflix series when you don't have a DVD or like you don't have anything else? You just have the internet.
That's a pretty abstract concept too. Like, how do you do something without having it? You know,
Yes.
or without owning it, even, right?
Yeah, without owning it.
if your only context as an entrepreneur is everyone owns everything, like that,
Like you just
I
like
don't know.
if the movie is gonna be in one place and everybody can watch it
Yeah. Or
streaming from this one place.
I guess it is like a natural progression from movie rentals and things like that. So my previous statement is kind of stupid, but um, I do think there's some truth to the whole like it's always harder to think up the innovations before they just fall into place and hit you, you know?
Yeah,
Like I feel like half of the major innovations that have ever happened, or probably more than that, were done just because it was the next logical thing to do and it was an easy leap to make, like in thought,
that's
which
where I disagree. I agree with it was the next leap. I
mhm.
disagree with it was easy
Well,
because
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's easy. It's hard already to come up with like let's make a world where nobody is owning DVD and
mhm.
storage. Like you could just connect to the internet and watch anything.
Yeah,
It's harder to create that, like the framework of that.
yeah.
Like, what is this system where literally it does not exist? Today, you
Well,
turn on Netflix and you just like, it's normal.
I think I say easy in that, like, I'm not talking at all about how much it takes to develop the concept. I'm just talking about what it takes to realize that the concept is possible and that it is the next step, or at least
Yeah,
like it's ready to be the next step, and like usually those head slap moments, I think, when you look back in them, it's like this should have been easy to come up with in hindsight, or like I should
yeah,
have come up with this earlier, but
I agree.
I don't know, you just didn't.
Like,
Um, Something I wanted to say to you, because this kind of
what?
blows my mind, and I think it would really blow your mind, is the Saturn V rockets that we used to get to the moon back in like the
Yeah,
60s? And you know how much like technological development and like how many exotic materials had to go into making that possible and doing
yeah.
all that. What's weird to think about is that all of the materials necessary to actually get a man to the moon like that have always been here. Always. Like since the beginning of the earth, we had the capability to go to the moon if we wanted to, and the only thing that was stopping us was we just didn't know how.
It's crazy, right?
Right?
Yeah,
Or like if someone was able to leave like an instruction booklet for us on how to do everything we needed to get that going, and we had the focus and the drive, we could have done it like centuries sooner if we really wanted.
yeah.
But
Wow.
there is
And like,
no instruction book that tells you how to figure these things out, how to do these things, and like we don't stay focused on one thing all the time, and we don't have the social structure and stability to pool our resources all the time, in the right ways.
recently I've been watching a channel called The Everyday Astronaut. Like, I've been learning about rockets, like
Hmm.
how to send things to space.
Yeah,
And like, I know now how a rocket works, and I'm able like to appreciate. Like for the first time, I watched like an interview of Elon Musk presenting the rockets at SpaceX,
yeah,
and like before it was just gibberish. I did not understand, and now I'm starting. I understand how a rocket works. It makes me appreciate like how insane what they are doing is.
yeah,
Like he was presenting iteration of the rocket, and the new rocket is so simplified. Like a rocket is so complex, and
yeah,
the fact that they simplified it into something that almost looks like a car engine. Like he was showing like a line of like rockets, like there's nine of them, and they are just like, yeah, we make them like we just pop them like that. It's that easy. And like they were like the interviewer was asking him like, how did you simplify it that much? And he was like, I can't tell you, but it was extremely difficult. Like he shows
yeah,
you the previous iteration, and it's like cores. It's like so many engine. It's like huge. And
Mhm.
then he show you that tiny thing, and it's like, yeah, it's complete. That's it.
Yeah, I think we're getting to a point where we're starting to see things like technology reach their final forms, if you will.
Yeah,
So, like with
I
automobiles, like let's look at the history of automobiles for a second. Um, like in the early decades, there are a lot of iterations and a lot of tests to see if things will or will not work. Um, and so there's a ton of variety in like the early history of any invention. And then once you kind of get to the next maybe 100 years of its life, suddenly it all starts to kind of look the same. And
yeah,
everyone kind of figures out pretty much the best way to build an automobile, for example, you know? And
yeah,
I think that we're in that phase with rockets now where we're getting really close to figuring out the best way to build a rocket, and there's not going to be a ton of variety anymore. Or like not as much not as many crazy like earth-shattering breakthroughs on how to build one right, without making something completely alien to the concept of a rocket that can get us into orbit, right?
yeah. There was like, so I was listening to like how rocketry, like every type of rockets, like how it evolved and what was the innovation.
Yeah,
And sometimes you think that the innovation is like some type of new machines. Like rockets have like pre-burner and a burner,
yeah,
and like it was always about like how can you mix them up, like what do you link to what to make sure you have the optimal like propulsion
yeah,
essentially. And I was looking at this extremely like complex thing, which was like, oh my god, I forgot the name, like fuel rich rocket.
yeah,
And like it's like a lot of thing going toward this and that, and it's huge. And then the next step toward that is simple, and essentially they just figured out that if we poke a hole into the preburner and link it to that, we get the same thing.
yeah.
So it literally shrinks the whole thing. Just because they were like, what if we just poke a hole here?
Mhm.
And the whole thing shrinks. And it took them decades to just figure it out that
Yeah.
we can just poke a hole. Instead of recreating this whole reaction by doing this, we can just poke a hole here and we just get it.
I think what's so funny about how people make things is just you start off just trying to get the concept to work in by any means necessary. And so usually you make something really complex and convoluted and it just barely works. But then you're able to see exactly how it works. It kind of like the mechanism you built serves as an example of how all these like factors relate to each other, and then you can start crossing off all the things that don't matter and cutting fat until you get that simple compact beautiful package. But
It's so
it's a
beautiful when you
shame that we have to go through that all the time where we make the most complex thing like right off the bat.
but it's so beautiful when you get that simple thing.
It
Like
is beautiful, yeah.
so like I look at the chair project again and I'm like, I could build it in 2 days. Because I made so many iterations of it that it is that simple. Like to get it to be that simple, I have streamlined the whole thing. Like I know what to bend, what to cut, what lengths, and essentially you just follow that same recipe and you will get the chair every single
Yeah,
time.
yeah, development is always harder than production too.
Yeah, even the paper pulp lamp. It was so I made like I think I made 8 of them or 7 iterations. And like the first iteration was like this super bulky thing, like a big box of paper pulp. And
Yeah.
like I had a picture of that where like I made 3 iteration and it becomes that it shrunk by like I think I cut 80% of the fat.
Wow.
It shrunk by like the last one was like this thin, super well crafted, super well molded paper pulp lamp
Yeah.
and super sleek. and it shrunk by 80%. And I'm like, I could have like to get this one thing.
Yes. This whole time I could have
Yeah,
started here if and like had it done in like 3 days, you know.
yes. And like it was solid. It lasted like 2 years on my bedside. And I'm like, it is so. Sometimes I'll just take off and be like, this is so slim and so complex, but yet simple. It's just one piece of paper pulp.
Yeah. 2 years is a long lifespan too for something
It
made
is.
out of that.
I think the shell is still here. Like it literally
Mhm.
fell because like I could remake that lamp again way simpler. It is that easy.
Mhm.
I just need rice, I need foam, I need water, and I need paper and a mixer. Yeah, that's all I need. And it is insane to get to that level, like, and see the finished result, which is way simpler. And you're just like, why did we go through that?
I
Essentially,
remember watching you suffer through that too. Uh,
you
like,
remember how like
or like
I had this whole thing.
I remember going into your room and seeing like a bunch of like half made or like busted paper pulp prototypes, and it was kind of tragic. I think at the time you hadn't had it figured out yet either, and you were just desperately like testing.
I was desperately testing.
Yeah, it wasn't going super great. Your
I
apartment was a mess.
My
That's what I
apartment was
remember vividly.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I know, like I took a picture of it. Like I think you came to see that. Like I was trying to drive a paper poop, and I made this big pyramid of like stools
Yes.
and paper box just to
Uh,
make the paper poop go be closer to the fan and
yeah,
just for it to dry.
that was so ridiculous. That's what I came there for was you had stacked up this massive tower below your ceiling fan that you had
Yes,
set your paper pulp model on top of. Like
just for it to dry.
the desperation is just so hard to look at because
It can be so simple today. Oh my
yeah,
god,
that's how
dude.
you break a man, you know.
No, because like I enjoy it. Like despite the fact that it's so hard and so difficult and it takes time and it takes suffering, like it takes you to suffer. Somehow I enjoy it. I'm like, it's worth my time.
Mm.
Like if this is the result, it's totally worth my time to go through that. And like that's why I've been picking up challenges, like this actuator thing. Oh, this project, like I was doing a project for the Dyson competition, and it took Pedro 5 minutes to take it apart.
5
Which,
minutes. That's not
yes,
bad. It's not the
no,
worst.
because
Wait, wait,
I
wait, wait.
could,
Well, it depends on what it is. What is it?
I don't want to say it now because I'm so ashamed. I thought it was a
Uh,
great idea, and again, Pedro has this business mindset, which is
mhm.
like it's not gonna sell, and these are the
Yes,
reasons.
he does. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, he's right.
Pedro is a great person to run concepts by because he thinks so critically. Or like whenever you run something by him, he will not BS you. If it's gonna work, he'll tell you. If it's not gonna work, he'll tell you. You know,
Yeah,
there,
I
there
was
are no
so
soft lies for you.
I was so proud of it. I had the vision. The vision was good. And it's like the need doesn't exist,
Yeah.
and this is why. And I'm like, oh my god, the need does not exist for this thing to exist. And I'm like,
Are you
gosh,
sure
I've
you
been
won't tell me what it is?
no because I need to shift it. I need to pivot that
Oh,
idea.
that's so funny.
I
Okay.
need to find the problem, and that made me understand something about ID. Do
Yeah.
not create a problem. Do not create a problem and solve
Oh,
it.
yes. Yeah.
And like when you were saying about like shift, like it was obvious that what the next thing will be. It was because the problem exists already. Like there are problems in the world. You don't need to come up with Like I was thinking
New
like,
ones. Yeah.
yes, like I was thinking like ID project. Like if instead of like trying to, I don't know, our teacher are trying to get us like to not create problem, to not be like do it on ourselves. Like go ask people what are their problem,
Yeah.
because there are problems. And when you get a problem, essentially it justifies your solution.
Yeah.
Like I'm working on again that actuator, and the need is there because someone that works there is like, yeah, that is our problem right now.
Hmm.
Like that's a problem we have in the industry. And I'm like, oh, so I just need to find a solution now. I don't need to find a problem. I just had to ask you, what was your problem?
Yeah. Hmm. I do have something I'd like to comment on creating a problem, which is I think if you're going to create a problem, you need to do it under one company name. And then when you create the solution to the problem you created, you need to do it under a different company name and a different name so that they're totally separate, right? So if you're doing it all under one company and one name, that's bad because you're going to get caught. You have to do it separately.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. It depends if you have good lawyers.
Yeah.
But
Or we can do it like this, where I'll design the problem for you and you design the solution, and we secretly work together to make it a little scheme.
I think it has been done. I'm not even kidding. I think it has been done. Like what you're saying right now, a lot of pharmaceutical companies have done that.
Yeah.
Where like they have sold something that have created issues, and they sell the medicine to that, the
Yeah.
drug to that.
Yeah.
That has happened a lot. But you don't need to create a problem. Like I've had friends pitching ideas to me in a sense and be like, oh hi.
Hello. Okay, so I don't know if the audio is going to be great because I don't have an actual mic. The last time I did a podcast, um, my brother is an audio engineer, and so he had like a whole setup in his room, but he took all of his equipment and
Oh no.
so I don't have I don't have the good goods. So if we want to experiment a little bit, I don't know how this sounds, but I can also try like my AirPods or other headphones and see like which one's the least crunchy.
I would say in my experience, your computer mics is always better than your AirPods mic.
Okay. All right.
I
Thank
tried
you.
my headphone mic and like it was horrible. The sound was unusable. So right now I'm like listening to you through my headphone, but really using my computer mic and
Oh,
recording in my closet.
okay. Okay, we can
First
go with
off,
this.
I think your audio is perfect. And second, do you think we have the goods to have mics either?
I mean,
Like
anything is better
me and
than
Kadmiel both record with our computer mics as well because
okay, okay.
we don't do this pod. This is not a professional podcast. This is a busted podcast where we just talk about things and it's very mellow. So
Okay.
Not yet.
yeah,
Maybe
not
in
yet.
5 years.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, I intend on doing it for 5 years. So let's see how it
Yeah,
Ooh, that's
goes.
a good goal. Okay, I love it. We got
yeah.
long-term plans
Okay,
going on.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. He didn't tell me that, by the way.
I intend on podcasting, man,
Yeah.
for a
Okay.
very long time. But how are you doing?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's very good to see y'all's faces. Things are good. It's been an eventful summer, just sort of prepping to move and trying to do like a calculus prerequisite, which has been a lot tougher than I was expecting because I thought I would remember high school calc, but absolutely not. So, yeah, just trying to get ahead of that.
Uh,
And I'm living at home right now in Lake Jackson, but I'm going to Houston a couple times a week to go work at Air Alliance, which is a nonprofit that I work at. So I'm like mostly working from home, but a couple days a week I go in the office. So, what about you guys? What have you
oh,
been doing? Where are y'all located right now?
me,
And
Ooh.
then tell me what it is that you're doing there.
I am in the same hellhole you left me, meaning
Oh no.
near your age. Love my place. I'm in my closet recording a podcast. I would say my summer has been about picking up personal projects to add to my portfolio and starting to think about my final project. I was explaining to Nick that I got to interview someone that was working in the gas industry and like kind of be like, what are your problem? And because I mean, I was looking at yours like final projects, and I felt like the strength of a project is as strong as your problem is. Like,
Yeah.
is your problem real?
Yeah.
So, so I was like, I'm not gonna try to create a problem and try to solve it. I'm just gonna ask someone that has a big problem, like, what are your problem? And I'm just gonna make a solution for that.
I mean, do you have a certain area that you're trying to like? Are you sort of forming your thesis around what it is you think you want to do post graduation, like what sort of industry, or are you just totally open to anything right now?
I would say I'm open to anything right now. So what I'm doing right now, like based on the interview I had with that person, there is an app that he talked about. There was an actuator which like helps like a valve to open and close.
Hmm.
There is an issue there. Um, there are also like different like things, pipe things you could add to a pipe to make it like know, for example, that there is a leak. Like for these type of things. So I'm right now I'm just researching a lot and like just gathering data. And next time I see that person come up with like ideas, but I don't have a preference. I was telling that I like the entrepreneurial road. That's what interests me the most. And it is extremely difficult. It takes decades to make something successful.
Yeah.
Decades that I'm willing to spend, honestly, because nothing else interests me. So I, yeah, that's what I've been doing during the summer, just picking up projects. Like what will be my big idea, I guess.
That's good. That's good that you're really taking the time to go through, organize your thoughts and be prepared. Because it can also be very easy to not think about thesis and then figure out something really fast at the very end. So I'm glad to hear that you're
Yeah.
planning it out.
Mm.
Well, some of us didn't get internship, so we need to find something to do.
All right, Nick, what's been going on with
Mm.
you?
So I'm up in Plano, which is in like the Dallas Fort Worth area of Texas.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty much in the same boat where it's mostly like a lot of portfolio refinement or like going back to old projects and polishing them up a bit, you know? So that's pretty much where I'm at. I might do some 3D printing or like I might go back and redo some of my model making because I think that was those are some of my weaker areas. And it would be nice to have better physical models in the portfolio than just like the kind of rough ones I had to rush on. But
Right. I
yeah.
mean, to a certain degree, you can always clean things up with Photoshop,
Mhm.
but also at a certain point,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta start over, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Case
Look,
in point, the chair project, right? There we go.
Yeah.
just reinforce those hard
Yeah.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Reinforce the hard skills.
Where are you moving again?
I am moving to Durham, North Carolina to go to grad
Mm.
school. Yeah,
Shoot, man.
I know.
That's far away.
It's
That's a big change, right?
it's terrifying. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
leaving on August 3rd, so I really only have a couple weeks left. And like I'm so excited because I've never really moved away from home before other than like moving to
Mm.
Houston for school, but that's like an hour away, so I could always come home if I wanted to, and I did. But this is a big change. So I just signed a lease last night on an apartment. Oh my god, that was a
Yikes.
process.
That's
Gosh.
spooky.
And I'm living with someone who I met at the nonprofit that I work at actually in Houston. So she's moving from Houston as well and is doing the exact same program that I'm doing. So that's sweet.
Oh.
Like I already have,
Wow.
you know,
How lucky.
a
Wow.
built-in,
Yeah,
yeah,
seriously.
partner for all of this, which is great because, we're both sort of terrified. But yeah, I'm very excited. I'm so excited to
Yeah.
be at a place where there's already like a baseline passion for sustainability and the environment. And it's not like, because I don't know, I feel like at U of H sometimes it's hard to get people on board with sustainability. But
Yeah.
the program that I'm going into is housed in the School of the Environment, and so there's already like you're already with a group of people that are actively concerned about and doing something about climate change. So I'm excited to sort of get involved with research there and really, you know, dive in head first. So,
Mm.
so yeah,
I
my
love how like this is your passion. Like you do not derive from that passion climate change. Like
Yeah.
were you always like that? Like from the day you were born, like you,
well,
at 1 year old you were like, you didn't put the paper in the green.
I love imagining that. No, I mean, I would say my mom is environmentally conscious, so that was just already ingrained in pretty much everything. It wasn't like at a certain age she was like, okay, this is what you need to care about. It was sort of always there. Um,
Mm.
but when I was in high school, I was really interested in packaging design just because of single use plastics and waste and like food packaging, for example. Like there's just so much waste that we create just by like existing every day. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna become a packaging designer and I'm gonna do cool sustainable packaging and a like biodegradable everything and revolutionize all of this, yada yada. It was very naive to think that I was just gonna go in and like solve the world's waste problem. But getting into ID, I was like, this is actually, sustainability is not really prioritized by a lot of folks. So how can you sort of change the way that people view that? Um, so then I got more into like plastics research and thankfully was able to,
Precious plastic, right?
yeah, with
Yeah.
precious plastic, kind of dive into that a little bit more. And that's when I realized, okay, real change is not going to occur from designing one sustainable product, but it might, you might see more of a difference if you can create a more efficient recycling, system in a city or in a region or something like that, kind of like scaling up, how do you create sustainable systems instead of sustainable products? So that's when I was like, okay, policy seems to be where the action actually happens. How can you integrate design with policy, right? It's like policy
Mm.
Yeah.
should be participatory, policy should be collaborative, policy should like all these elements of design thinking should be integrated into government decision making, I think. So it almost seemed like a natural transition to go from design to like
To
the political
politics.
sphere because these are the practices that we should be implementing as we're making decisions that benefit everyone. So I don't necessarily have a political background, but I'm interested in
That,
rethinking the way that some of these things are designed and created. So along that line, I
that
was kind of got involved with like, what is environmental justice? Who is most impacted by climate change, pollution, plastic pollution, for example. Um, and that's some of the work that I've been doing this summer with Air Alliance Houston. So we're an environmental justice nonprofit that does air quality monitoring in Houston. And I think, as we all know, the air quality in Houston is very poor because of all
oh
the along the
yes.
ship channel and right oil and
Oh
gas.
gosh.
So, trying to give a voice to communities who are most impacted by pollution, and those tend to be marginalized Black and Brown communities. So it
Yeah.
all like everything intersects, whenever you kind of if you like lay it all out. And that's what I like making those connections. I like mapping
Mm.
things and like
Yeah.
seeing how things overlap. So that's my long-winded way of saying, where am I moving? I'm moving to North Carolina to do all these cool things. So
You're already so deep down in it. Like
Yeah. I
I
think. Well, did you have something you want to say first?
no, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's good that you're coming at this with no real political affiliation or something, even though it involves a lot of, I guess, political involvement. Because I think you can get a lot more people on your side if you're just focusing on this one particular issue that you want the change on, right?
right.
Because I think when you label yourself, if it's the United States in either party camp, um, you immediately turn a lot of people against you because they think you stand for the next, several
You
dozen
stand for
things on the
all of
party
it.
line. It's like, no,
Right.
wait. Like, you start to lose your focus on that one particular issue that you really want to speak on and you're really qualified to change and impact, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really good, just right off the bat. That it's more about the specific policy to you than like which party or who's going to be able to do it necessarily, right?
Right. Right. I mean, but it is tricky because, you know, on one hand, you do have an argument of, industry equals better economy, question mark, right? So it's like who benefits and who is burdened. That's sort of,
Yeah,
you have to put people at the center of that conversation, and
yeah,
nobody wants to be, there's like a lot of cancer clusters and like asthma issues and also, a plethora of health impacts in Houston. So, if you take away the everything else and just look at public health and um, people, then, you know, but I
yeah,
mean, okay, it's hard because design is also inherently political, right? Because you're making
yes.
decisions that impact people, and that is, influenced by some sort of political something. But yeah, it's hard. Again, you have to like kind of tear it all apart because you don't want
Yeah,
to isolate people. You don't want to make people feel like, you're on one side or another. I don't know. How can everybody win, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
guess one thing about the summer project I was working on is, again, the industry, I guess oil and gas. The person I was talking to was explaining to me like one problem of the actuator is that they pollute, and that would be good. Like they are used across so many things. Like they are part of so many components of like just extracting oil, and just it's like, I guess, like cows. Like one cow cannot like pollute the environment, but like you get like a million of them, and all of a sudden the methane they produce is like bad. Same thing for like for an actuator. There are just so many of them,
Hmm.
and it's like that would be good if we can have one that doesn't pollute at all. Like then you just like have that one solution and you can replace all of them, and all of a sudden it kind of drops.
But that, I mean,
And
that's, I think, a perfect example of, how scalability affects overall impact, right? So kind of
mhm,
back to the whole, you can design one product and it's cool and sustainable, but if you can revolutionize infrastructure, then, you're able to influence a lot more.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
yeah, but
think when you deal on a really macro scale like that, macro scale of production, it's very very important to choose your materials wisely, and choose your manufacturing methods wisely, because those are, like Kadmiel said, those are the kinds of things that are that I think they go unseen typically because they're such a mundane, uh, kind of low priority component
yeah,
in a
it's just a
machine,
pump.
right? Yeah, all it
Nobody.
is like a valve or a pump, right? But because you're making several thousand of them or several million or whatever the number is, because the production figures are so high, it can create these drastic uh, influences on environmental systems,
yeah.
No, definitely. Are you gonna become senator one day?
Oh,
You
yeah.
always say that. I don't,
I know you have.
I don't know.
I
I
mean,
don't.
he's kind of got a point. You're a really good talker for these issues.
You are.
Thank
I
you.
see you on this stage already.
Very
Be like,
competent.
I appreciate
and also we freaking doomed. Like you're talking about an issue that's becoming a big one every single day.
Yeah.
like, like there's gonna be one day where we're gonna be faced with the fact that climate change has like screwed the earth to a point where like, I mean, I think we already passed that.
Yeah.
But like where it's gonna be so bad and so obvious that we're gonna be like, what were we doing like this whole time?
I think that's
And then
why.
Anne-Elisabeth comes along and she's like, I have a solution.
I mean, I just enjoy the research. I enjoy the background. Like, I don't want to be the person that's like sitting there talking about it. I'd like to sort of be behind the scenes. But, I think that's why sustainability and climate change, like these conversations are so important, not just in industrial design, but in every single industry, right? Because it expands to every single field, every single job, you know, it doesn't have to just be siloed into certain industries that should care about sustainability or climate change. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I think just having these conversations is a great way to start, you know, inspire someone to care a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people
I
that don't
see a lot
care.
of people.
So,
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, I mean, people wake up with different problem every day. We are in a recession right now, so I guess people are like, yeah, how am I gonna pay rent is more important than climate change when climate change is very important.
right. Well, and it's hard to see the daily impacts of climate change when it feels like such a huge issue. But, you know, the
Yeah.
heat that, we're experiencing right now in Texas, or,
Oh
it's just,
my god.
there's so many daily ways that climate change also affects you, but it's harder to string that all together when it just feels so massive.
You think we can
Yeah.
make Houston cooler if we solve that issue? Because I'll pay for that.
I don't know about Houston.
Yeah.
Houston
Where are
is
my tax dollars going? I want them to go there.
I don't want
Yeah.
Texas to get hotter than it is right now. This is obscene. This heat. Gosh.
it's
Yeah.
disgusting. I feel like I'm
On
gonna
the bright
swamp.
side, though, anytime you meet someone who lives in a colder climate, you can always gloat to them about how you can withstand the heat and they can't. Things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Th- those are
I
kind
had
of those are kind of the perks that you pay for when you live in Texas.
Bragging rights.
Yeah, you get a lot of bragging rights by living in this state.
I was bragging to friends that they came to my place recently and we were like, "Oh my god, it was so hot today. I had sunburn." And I'm like, "I don't know what sunburn is."
Oh my god, Kadmiel.
Ooh,
My
yeah.
daily struggle. I just get roasted toasted. Yeah, I have to put
Yeah.
sunscreen ever.
I put sunscreen, but I was like, that's kind of great. But also, it's bad. I recently discovered that I needed to take vitamin D,
Mm.
because essentially, because when you have a darker skin, your skin is not absorbing sunlight that
Oh,
much.
okay.
And there was a discovery like recently, like most Americans are vitamin D deficient because we all spend so much time inside. Yeah,
Yes,
look at
yeah.
me. It's so
I
pale.
probably me. Probably me if we got a bet. I'm
But
one.
like most people were vitamin D deficient, and it's even worse for someone with a darker skin because you need to be exposed more to the sunlight to get a good amount of vitamin D. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna take vitamin D like supplement. It didn't change my life. I didn't like wake up with more muscles or something. That's the thing with those things. Like you only see the long term
Right,
good effect of it,
right.
not really the short term.
That's good though. I'm
But
glad to hear that you're taking charge of your health and making positive changes there.
it's all because of ID. Studying ID made me discover is like even like I used to before I went to the co-ed, I used to procrastinate a lot. So like have these big dreams and just laying in my bed and just being like daydreaming and be like, oh my god, it's gonna be so awesome when you make it. And then I go to the co-ed and things are so hard that I'm like, it's gonna take longer to accomplish this thing. Like kind of get the price of what I was asking of this life and be like, oh my god, it's gonna take long and it's gonna take effort. And I almost need to treat myself like an athlete on the long run.
Yeah, that's a great perspective actually.
Yeah, like I need to make my body ready to sustain that much workload on the long term. And literally, I mean, that's how I've been treating myself since I mean, my first semester was so rough that the semester that followed, I was going weekly to the advisor and making like a freaking schedule of be like, this is when I eat, this is when I do that. And every week I would come back and be like, let's adjust things. Because I was like, I need to just be an athlete at doing this thing.
Yeah.
So vitamin D is part of it.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
mean, did you actually become the athlete you wanted to be?
I
Are
feel
you the
like yeah.
athlete you want to be?
I am now. I think we had that discussion recently. Second, sophomore year was extremely hard because I had a lot of factor besides studio that was affecting my life and just making me tired. So sophomore year was rough. Third year I was kind of recovering from like sophomore year, and I feel like this semester is when I like got to the level. Like I look at me coming to the program and I look at me now and I'm like, now you can realistically think about dreaming, like accomplishing these things because you kind of get what it costs. Like I'm in a routine. I'm a freaking machine, guys.
Hey, I mean, I am so impressed by you, Kadmiel. I feel like you have grown and evolved so much to figure out what works for you, what doesn't, and you take people's advice to heart, and you always work to improve. And I think that says a lot about you and your character.
So many people say I listen too much, but yeah, I love this.
It's hard. I mean, yeah, design school is tough, man. I am honestly very excited to take at least 2 years away from that space because that space can be toxic. I mean, let's be
It
real.
can.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my! Now that you graduated, like, what's your? I guess, like, what's your summary of your co-ed experience, like your bachelor experience?
Ooh,
Ooh,
that's a tough one.
yeah, that's a big question, Cadmiel.
It's a fake one.
There's a
Yeah.
lot that went
We have
on
all the
that
time.
first year.
We
Oh, God, I don't even know where to start with that question. Let me see. How can I summarize it in an eloquent way?
we have time.
We,
Just
We do
unpack.
have time. Yeah.
um, I would say that there were a lot of things that I was disappointed by, but I'm grateful for a lot of the conflicts and struggles because I don't think that I would have, I guess, matured and figured out ways to get around things and work with people that I had a hard time working with without those struggles. So it's like, what doesn't kill you make you stronger kind of thing. I'm grateful for all of that. I was not grateful at the time, but in retrospect, I'm grateful because I can say that I'm not the person I was on the first day of freshman year, and I think that's what you should get from college. But in terms of like the design education that I received, mm, there were a lot of things that I would have done, I wish would have been done differently. And I think just from like a comparison, one of my best friends goes to another school that teaches ID, and I've been able to sort of like track, like what has she been learning at the point that we were learning, and see some of the ways that we lack as a program, some of the things that we do a lot better than other programs. That's been interesting, just having that side by side comparison.
Mm.
um, I would say some of my key takeaways from my design education would be, I think, just the idea of design thinking and how to apply that to anything. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
being participatory, constantly, ideating. If it works, try it. If it doesn't work, go back and try again. Like, I think that's like a really healthy way of approaching any problem or any scenario. Mm, I'm glad that I was able to be part of, student orgs and participate in, like as a student leader. I think that was really helpful just in figuring out how to stand somewhere and have thoughts, have opinions on things and be able to articulate them. Mm, I would just say I have like certain qualms with the co-ed, which I won't get into, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, some
Oh, you can. We love being flagrant here.
Like
I already.
the co-ed as an organization or as like a building or
I would say as an institution with certain people.
okay.
Um,
I
Okay.
call this building hell when I talk to my friends about it. I'm not lying. Like, where are you? And my mom is like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in hell. Like, oh, I know where you are.
I know. Well, okay, then maybe
Oh
I should
boy.
speak to the ID program and Dr. Kwan's impact. I think she created a really strong, wonderful program, a really strong, wonderful space where people, had the ability to sort of be creative without judgment and, grow as designers and as people. And I'm grateful for that. So only respect for our professors and Dr. Kwan and that leadership. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I think about the teachers, and I'm like, I'm so grateful to have them. Like, I can I can remember one specific thing where like one specific project where they pushed me to a point where I was like, oh my god, I'm so proud of what I made under like that challenge. And also I can tie back to like a horrible memory of where they broke me. And like I came back stronger, but I still hold a grudge about that.
No,
I'm
I
Yeah.
think
just,
we all have those moments where like we've been broken a few times over the last few years. But that's okay. We got back up again, right? We didn't let it keep us down forever, even though it
I'll
almost
be
did.
grateful. I'll be grateful like in 20 years from now when I come and say, I'm like, oh my god, thank you. Right now, I'm just like pissed at some experiences I had.
Yeah, you need to cool off for a while.
I need to get away after graduation.
Yeah,
Leave
I'm
this-
there with you, man. I'm trying to get away already.
Y'all are so close. Okay, you just gotta make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more year and I'm gonna study something. I don't know what I'm gonna study after. I do want to do a master.
Oh, you do? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Wow, I
Yeah,
didn't know that. Hmm.
I do. I do. Like, I feel like
At Houston
definitely.
or just in general?
Not in Houston. Kill me. Unless someone unless someone is like, here's your green card, stay in Houston, I'll do it. But I'm going to master outside of Houston.
I
I
love
can't.
that.
Like I feel like definitely studying ideas taught me how to manifest an idea
Mm-hmm.
you have.
Hmm.
Not necessarily make it incomplete, but making it to a point where you can present it to someone and be like, this is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to create. Which is, I guess, super useful if you want to do an entrepreneurial road, to be able to not speak about the thing only, but be like, this is a prototype, this is something I can show you to illustrate my point. But I definitely lack knowledge in many other fields, business being one of them.
So maybe an
Be able,
MBA would be something you'd be interested in?
I don't know, I again, like something that will make me understand the price of what I'm doing, the price of what I'm making, and like how realistic is that, like making it fit into like, because it's great to innovate, it's great to come up with the next idea, but then you live in this world is real, so you kind of need your solution to fit into
Mm-hmm.
whatever exists already.
Are you saying you want to know more just about how to assess the market and like who's going to buy this, who's going to invest in it? Can this actually
Yes,
fly? Can we produce this in mass
yes,
numbers? Or like how
yes,
many of these do we need to make? Who do I need to talk to get it made? Like making those,
yes,
forging those
all of these
relationships
things.
and getting that group around you that can actually make the thing, so you don't have to do everything. I assume that's
Yeah,
kind of
all
what
of
you're
these.
talking about, like entrepreneurially, right?
Yes, I want a master or at least study after in something that will make my idea fit into the world, like make it realistic,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
make it something that can I can save a price, I can say how I'm gonna do it, how much it's gonna cost, who's gonna buy it for how much, and just your product. Like there are so many aspects of it, like the manufacturing, like who benefits from that, the customer who benefits from that, your other people working with you, your coworker who benefits, and all of these things that I do want to understand. And also, like again, manufacturing. There are so many. When I go, I love doing making my models because you confront it to reality. Like you do solid work, it's just a spline. It's like cute. You go into Keyshot, you put it in like fictional environment. It looks nice, and then you go into making that change. You just like metal cannot do that.
Yeah.
Or like this material can, or like this is what I have to make this thing, and I need to find a way to make it. So like again, reality is a real thing. So how do I make my idea, my vision, which is in my head, fit into reality?
Hmm.
That's the next phase, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that sort of sounds
that's
like an MBA. I don't know a whole lot about MBA programs though. But also, are you familiar with Red Labs at U of
mm,
H?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
yes.
I think that might be a program that you could do next summer because I know Medi did it this summer, and I think that that just gives you, sort of a crash course in, how to take your idea and actually turn it into a real product that you can take action on. Might be interesting. But you're gonna take Kelly's business class, I think, next spring, so that will also help you. I haven't taken that, but I know most of my studio did. It just gives you like a real
Okay.
world, how to actually
Yeah.
design and business together.
Yeah.
You're gonna do
I
great
mean,
things, Cadmiel. You're gonna do great things.
we'll see. Maybe I don't know if I'll be alive
yeah.
after.
You know what I tell
It's
myself all the time when I'm not sure if
what?
I can do great things,
What?
is to just trust my character and trust the skill sets I'm learning. And as long as I try to be a better man, just in what I can bring to the table and what kind of mental state I'm occupying and how I'm acting with other people, things will work out. You know,
That's really
because it's like
Yeah.
be a quality man, you get quality prizes.
yeah.
You
Well, it's
know,
sort of like
Yeah.
at least that's my thinking.
it's not what happens to you, but it's how you react to what happens to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. So that's good. I,
Mm.
I admire that a lot in
Yeah.
you.
So I trust in your character, Cadmiel, and that's why I don't have any questions about you going somewhere good. I
Uh,
don't know where. But
dude, you don't know how stressed I am.
yeah.
You don't know what I tell myself every night. I'm just like, you freaking late. You should have done that. Oh my god.
Okay, but it's
Yeah.
things like that that make me trust that one of these days something is going to work out for you because the only thing you can think about is making it work out for you. You know, stuff like that. Like you'll try over and over and over again. I know you will until it
Which is a
works.
curse.
Yeah,
Like
it is a bit
sometimes
of a curse, but
I'm
you
like,
know.
sometimes it's a curse that since childhood I've just been on the same path. I've just be like everything I'm kind of doing, like I can tie back to something I was doing as a kid. And I'm like, it's almost like becomes like, I mean, it's like, I don't know, you listen to Anne-Elisabeth talking about sustainability, you see how deep she is. She's not going to like all of a sudden go into the oil and gas industry. but, but I'm almost like, it's sometimes weird where I, this is the only thing I know how to, I want to do of my life. And like I met you, Nick, and you, for example, you are way simpler than me. And like
Yes.
and like you talk your version of happiness, for example, is not so much tied to like how huge your work, your contribution to society was.
Yeah, not
And
not strictly.
yeah,
I,
not
I, I
strict like
think I think I measure it in different ways than you do.
you do. And I just don't get it, which I think is a curse. I'm just like it makes sense, but I just love, at least my happiness, at least for now, is tied to the activity I'm doing and what it can create. But that's fucking crazy. Have you thought about happiness, Anne-Elisabeth? I don't know. It's kind of a deep question too.
Yeah.
You know, I was at work yesterday and someone randomly asked me like, what's the happiest moment of my life?" And I didn't really have a good answer. My The answer that I immediately came to mind was like I was like 5 years old like playing in a ditch on a rainy day. I was like, "Well, that was really fun, but like I need to rethink, because that was my childhood happiest memory, but like, a lot has happened since I played in that ditch when I was 5." Um yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that yet. What is happiness? I, yeah, I wish I had something deep and philosophical, but I think just, positively influencing those around you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what makes you happy? every day.
What makes me happy? My dog, my
I
cat.
mean,
Oh yeah.
if it helps, I think that was a really hardball question to ask you. The one that your coworker asked you about, like, what is your single happiest moment in your life? No, I think a lot of people don't have like a single moment they can point to and be like, aha, yes. Like
Right.
that was the happiest I ever was. You know, it's like I don't know. I think a lot of things are pretty comparable to each other. Like I look at myself and there are plenty of times where I've been happy before, but I don't think necessarily any one is more all that more significant than another, you know. Or I can point at a bunch of separate things that made me really happy, but
Yeah.
there's no like standalone pillar, right?
I think it's
So
also like kind of going back to the how you react to situations. Like, I think sometimes happiness is something that you have to consciously foster within yourself. You have to choose like, okay, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to put on, put my best foot forward. So sometimes happiness you sort of have to like
What a great time to be happy, huh?
yeah,
because there's a lot of not happy going on in the world, let's be honest. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
I think happiness for me is fostered by a couple of things before it can actually kind of manifest. Like, I think I have to be content in a variety of areas of my life. Like, I have to be content within my own head. I have to be content with my surrounding relationships. I have to be content with my environment. And I think a lot of that comes down to just finding ways to be grateful for the things that are around you, and like not just existing within them, but consciously noticing them and being like, I'm really grateful that the grass is as green as it is outside today, or I'm really grateful for the weather, like it's just really sunny and warm today. Things like that that you wouldn't ordinarily necessarily notice. Like it's just grass, it's just scenery, it's just heat or cold. But to take a moment to stop and appreciate it, I think that goes a long way. Um, so, like, peace of mind, peace of heart, contentment, appreciating the relationships around you, a bunch of those things, all of those I think are like the prerequisites that allow me to find that emotion of happiness. Like I think happiness kind of hits you in a wave and it can go away, but contentment is something you can keep regardless of circumstance, or like gratitude is something you can keep regardless of circumstance. So that's the way I try to look at being happy,
That
right?
a beautiful, beautiful answer, Nick. I wish I could be that articulate. Wonderful. I could not agree more.
That is a piece of mind that I'm trying to learn from Nick.
We would also learn from you, Nick. Gosh.
Yeah, yeah,
I am definitely, I mean, me thinking about happy memory, yes, I can think about childhood memory. My 12th birthday when I got Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. That's like the last time I remember like screaming of joy.
yeah.
Just like screaming, holding that game that I wanted so badly as a kid, and just being ecstatic, like just being like, oh my god, I got it. That's like, I don't think I would screamed of joy after that. But I've definitely been happy.
I do think that when you're an adult, or like when you transition into adulthood, it's harder to get like uncontrollably excited about things. And I think part of the reason why is because a lot of things aren't new anymore, you know? Or like you can always look back and say, oh, this is kind of like that one time I had this other thing. Or I think your mind is just kind of subconsciously making comparisons all the time to the things that it
Oh yeah, I
knows,
compare
you
myself a
know?
lot.
So it's hard to like suddenly jump for joy and get all screamy and giggly when you get like a video game because it's like, oh, I've already gotten like 10 of those, or you're already very familiar with the feeling. So
Yeah,
I think you kind of get forced into searching for, um, I think, the deeper things behind those visceral moments, or like those visceral emotions where you're like, what is uh what is the kind of thing that can facilitate those emotions, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, I've been happy talking to my family first, for example. Like, we'll just go on this, like, funny tangent during our video calls where, like, it start to get crazy and funny. And, like,
yes.
maybe my dad will ramble about a subject that he doesn't know about, but he talks about it as if he know, and it just becomes so funny that we're just laughing so much. I think I've been happy recently during recent year, like just watching sport. I mean, ID has I know that I'm in the right degree, and I've experienced happiness in the core, like just making like things project, but like definitely sport is something that just create emotions in me.
Hmm.
I'll just say that's why I'm super competitive, so I put on, instead of going in the quad killing people, I just put it into sport. She's like, oh,
That went real far, real fast. Okay.
Nick definitely knows I'm kind of
Yeah,
I
you
am
should see some
competitive.
of the things this man puts on his story about like basketball. It's frightening, you know.
I
I
keep
don't
up
want to get into
sometimes.
basketball anymore, now that I know that I might get on the bad side of Cadmiel in that regard.
That's
It's
why I
scary.
put all the I've just put all the aggressiveness in sport, just watching it, and I'm like, okay, got my thing, I can go back to work.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh my gosh. But yeah, how do you relax like when you work? Like, are you always working? Is a question I always ask.
mm,
I've always seen you working.
Um, well, yeah, I would say not at all. I am not always working. I feel like sometimes I have bursts of like I get a lot done in a short amount of time, but fundamentally I'm a very lazy person and I have to make myself do these things. So, how do I relax? I mean, sometimes just like sitting, no thoughts, head empty is nice. Um, like going on the computer, like Wikipedia black holes, I love doing that. Um,
What?
what?
Wikipedia?
Wikipedia, just like reading about random things, and like one thing leads to another hyperlink, which you just like go deeper and deeper. Uh,
yeah. Okay.
being with my cats, they're great. They just put me at peace. I'm like looking around my room right now. Oh, cooking! I would say I recently, because over the last year I lived alone on campus, and I love cooking pots of soup. So I would say that,
Mm,
have like a podcast going, cook my soup, you know,
Yeah,
really at peace.
mm.
Think what else? Caring for my houseplants, if that counts, connecting with nature.
counts.
Um, I really like woodworking when the stakes are low. So like I love creating, making, specifically woodworking. I finally I've been working on building this bed for like the last 2 years and I
A
finally finished it and it's in my
bed?
room now. So that's been fun.
Not like a pet bed, like a human.
Yes, yes. It's like not
That,
super complex. It's a Floyd bed, if you know what that is. It's like where there's like three plywood panels and you buy the hardware that sort of like is like the legs and anyways,
oh,
been taking up space in my garage and I finally finished that. Yeah, I would say those are my answers. I think to sum all of that up, I think I relax by being alone a lot of the time. So I would definitely say that I am introverted. I do not get my energy from being around people. I get my energy from being alone and recharging. So I think having that alone time where I can just be like not have to speak to anyone and just process things, that is super important for my overall well-being because I cannot go 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 and, you know, be on all the
yeah,
time. It has to be like
yeah.
bursts of that with, periods of peace in between. But
I don't remember ever see what.
go ahead, go ahead.
I don't remember ever seeing you not on. Like, I
Yeah, that's the
almost
thing.
thought
Like if
like
I'm
you were
around folks,
just
like I try to be have my stuff together, but I gotta step away. And I think a lot of folks that maybe feel more introverted sometimes don't feel comfortable establishing boundaries and like saying like I need my alone time. I need this. But
Yeah,
sometimes getting older is realizing I got to I got to figure out where to draw the line and advocate for yourself. So, I'm
yeah.
trying to learn that. It's a process, but I'm trying to feel okay with being like kind of lame sometimes, you know what I mean? And just like I can't go out, I can't do whatever, I can't hang out. I just need to be with me for a little bit. So, what I mean,
Oh
how do
my
you feel like
god.
you get your energy from others or from being alone?
Oh, it's a mix. I would say that I am definitely introverted. Like everyone that knows me in Ivory Coast knows that I'm kind of like I don't talk that much. Like even my parents nowadays they look at me like even talking to crowds and they're just surprised because I feel like coming in the US forced me to be extroverted.
Mhm.
So like I seem outgoing nowadays, like I seem like I'm not shy and afraid and things like that. But fundamentally I'm like quiet and I like to lay in my bed and just run scenarios in my head.
Yeah.
Just make whole movies in my head. Um when I'm alone also I like to okay, it's a bad thing, I know, but I spend 25 hours of YouTube every week. And they are not like right now I was explaining to Nick that I learned how like rockets work. I just binge watch a lot of videos of 40 minutes, like explaining like how a rocket is made and things like that.
Mhm.
And then like go into like SpaceX videos and be like, kind of appreciate like what was their innovation, why are they successful in rocketry, and kind of understanding that. So I just binge watch a lot of YouTube videos.
That's yeah, that's great.
But
Yeah. I will say that's not necessarily like a bad thing or a huge waste of time. A lot of that I think depends on what you're learning from it or what you feel like you're getting from it, you know.
yeah, I
Um
spend a lot of time on Instagram too.
mm,
Which when I go on YouTube, I see something that interests me. I have a whole album of things that are different snippets of like videos of things that interest me. I have a whole album of it. And I keep accumulating it every day. And like at some point I was like, maybe I need to share that. So I just share it on my page every day. And when I go on Instagram, I'm like, oh my god, I post every day. Shit. Like I just post stuff.
yeah. Post a me who posts absolutely nothing on my main account.
Yes, I don't know how you do that.
My main
I
account is
feel
just dead, man. I don't do anything there. I just check on you, you know,
it's
Yeah,
like
look
I
at
keep
your
your
just
tabs on
story.
Cadmiel.
Yeah,
I hope you enjoy it.
I do actually. Yeah, it is kind of a highlight for me when I see that because I know it's going to be something that's not going to make me upset. I find that usually when I go on Instagram, it's a mixed bag of like some things that are like really polarizing and kind of toxic, and then other things that are like kind of uplifting and nice or just
Yeah.
neutral, you know?
Okay.
So,
If you ever need just uplifting, in addition to Cadmiel's feed, the Dodo,
hmm
have you ever been on that account before? It's a YouTube channel and it's an Instagram, but it's all
huh.
heartwarming animal videos, like animal rescue videos. I'm sorry, but
Ah,
like that's my kryptonite. I could watch 10 million of those.
oh boy.
Oh my god. And they're like bite
Yeah.
size, you know what I mean? It's just like, here's this stray dog, here's what happened when someone gave him love, and now he's happy and whole, and it's anyways.
Ooh, I found it, Cadmiel. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'll check it out.
Wow, this is
I
great. Yeah, there's lots of
I
cute little
also
dogs and
love.
cats and stuff.
Okay, I'm not always looking at science video online. I love comedic podcasts too. I love laughing. Like I love humor. I really love like humor in general and like just laughing about any subject.
Mm,
So honestly, like I mean I try to be funny, but I also like listen to fun things and try to have like a fun take. Like whenever it get political and things like that, I purposely like if I speak on it, try to not. I don't know. Like it's not even that I try because I don't think I'm dividing. I hope not because I'm not from here. Like I have no stake in like tying myself to a political party unless one of them give me a green card. I'll say whatever they want.
Aw.
Listen,
Wow.
that's humor. but, but like, I try. I purposely try to make my page interesting. Like I actually do put effort into like this. I don't know why, and maybe that's why I'm doing podcasts and things like that. It's what?
Well, it made me think about like, so what's the origin story of this podcast?
Oh boy. Um. Well, I would probably say it started back when we were doing the chair project. I think that was junior year, right?
Mm,
Yeah. Back when we were doing the chair project, I used to carpool Kadmiel all the time to wherever we needed to go, like hardware stores or something, um, because I had a little Chevy S10 pickup truck. We were driving there one time, um, and we had been having a couple conversations that would go on for like an hour or something because, again, we were just spending that time. Um, and a few times we had said something along the lines of we should record this because we were just having so much fun with the conversation. It was really sparking, and I was like, we should record this and make a podcast, and even if no one listens to it, it doesn't matter because we just want to talk to each other and we're going to do it anyways, and I would like to be able to go back and listen to these at some point because I'm having so much fun with this. And so after a while, we finally got around to doing it. And we've been doing it every week ever since. When did we actually
16
start?
weeks straight.
Yeah,
I don't
16
know.
weeks now. So,
Wow,
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
I me it goes even way back than that.
oh yeah,
I Yeah, I've my first podcast. I podcasted before I even knew what podcast was.
oh yeah.
And I feel like the first time I sat with someone and recorded a discussion was in Spain. I was visiting my family and we went to that camp and I met a dude called Maxwell. He was like the only black beside me and my little brother. So obviously we noticed each other and we were like, "Hey, what's up?" And like I was explaining to him kind of my journey in the US and kind of how it was kind of life changing the person I've become, like how independent. And then he told his story to me. And like he was a migrant, like he emigrated like from Africa to like Spain and kind of the story of that. And it was so insane. This dude has avoided death and so many short stories. I was so impressed by it that I was like, dude, you are a whole book. Like and like I was thinking about it and I was like, maybe I should would you mind like recording yourself telling this story again? And we sat beside a table and like we recorded and that was my first podcast, like Maxwell's story. And when I came back when I came back in the US, I did one semester at the co-ed, and then I went back to Dallas visit the people I knew there. And I had another friend when I was leaving for Houston. He was in a very bad situation. He was an international student himself, and kind of his parents were not able to support him anymore. Like, he was in a very bad place, and I was just leaving for Houston. So like whenever I went to Houston, did one semester at the co-ed, I wanted to come back to Dallas and I texted him and I was like, "Hey, are you okay? Like I want to come back to Dallas. I'm just searching for a place to stay." And he was like, "Why don't you come back to my place?" And I'm like, "You have a place?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a place, I have a job." And I'm like, he figured out like how to sustain himself. Like right now he's like he has his own apartment, his own car. And the story of that was also so insane. that I recorded myself with him. We did like two podcasts, and we did a third one with another person. And I did another podcast with another friend in North Carolina. She works for Microsoft now. And then I listened to Joe Rogan for the first time, which was like the first podcast I ever listened to. And like he had like friends over around the table with mics. And I looked at it and it just occurred to me. I was like, that's what I need to do. Like whatever he's doing right now, that's what I want to do like every week, like every day. And ever since I've been looking for a pretext to do it, I think there was Sorry I'm in Studio podcast I was
Mm.
part of. And then when Nick was like down for it, finally, I was like, yes,
Yeah, finally a co-host. Yeah.
yes. But it's definitely when I say I want to do it for the next 5 years, I see my life having traveled a lot and met a lot of people on different continents. I was like, I want to have an opportunity to talk to them, like when I'm in my 40s, like have a pretext to talk to them. And that would be like, hey, come on the podcast.
Yes, please. I would love to have those people you just talked about on the podcast. Also,
That would be,
do you still have
yeah,
those recordings
I
that
do.
you did with them? All of them?
I did. Yes, all of them.
Wow.
The Maxwell podcast is in English, my broken English.
Yeah.
And the one with the friend I was talking about is actually in French because he's from Ivory Coast. But the Maxwell podcast has always been there.
Are they actually up anywhere? Like, can
Yes,
people
they're on
see
my
them?
drive. Yes,
Wait, where are they?
on my Google Drive.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, are they
Publicly
somewhere public?
available.
Like, yeah,
No,
like
they are not
Spotify
public.
or something.
I never published it. It
Dude, come
just stayed
on.
there.
Don't hold out on
I
us.
Yes, when I met Maxwell, like I told him before I leave that I'm gonna take that story, and I don't know, maybe one day I can show it to someone that will make a movie. But I really, he is one of my driving force when I'm down, because that's kind of how I work. I'm like, I want to do something good for him one day. I hope I can be in a position one day when I can do something good, because obviously I I think a lot of people have more chances of like doing something successful, but I also have a chance. Like I have a window. I have like I feel like I have a shot at it. So I'm like, do it and be in a position where you can one day come back to these people, and I don't know, like if they need something, or maybe they save themselves. I don't know, but that's sometimes it drives me, like to actually
Just
work.
like being able to give back what they gave to
Yes,
you.
it's not even like giving back something, because whatever they gave me was free. It's more like through my journey here, a lot of people have been good to me. And obviously, it's nice to say thank you, but sometimes I'm like, thank you is not enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not obviously thinking about money all the time, but I'm like, money or like being in this position you can give other things to be like, hey, like you can be useful to them. I want to be useful to them if they ever need something, because I feel indebted to all the people that have helped me. And
Yeah,
sometimes it drives me.
and maybe it's not even giving back to them specifically, but identifying people that are in the position that you were in a couple of years ago and acting as that mentor and acting as, the what helped you doing that for other people.
Yeah.
So
Next
Yeah,
Cadmiels, right?
yeah.
Help
there
them
are
out.
plenty of dude. I don't
Well, you
know,
should
but
upload
we'll see.
that episode, that recording on here. I'd love
Yeah,
to listen to it.
seriously. I'm
I want
surprised
the
you haven't put it anywhere public.
because I wanted a lot of people to listen to it. So I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, whenever this
Okay.
becomes big, I
Mm.
can actually share that story, because I know a lot of people are gonna listen to it. I don't know, but yeah, the podcast has always been with me, and all the other subsequent podcasts. So yeah, I love that medium. I hope like we'll be in our 50s and I'll be texting Anne-Elisabeth like, "What's up?" Well, come
Get
on,
me when y'all get big. Y'all are gonna do great things.
dude, stop saying I'm gonna be like that. It puts so much stress on me, but
Hey man, I'm not putting any stress on you. This can be as small as you want it to be. I'm just hanging out.
I love that about you. You just like
Yeah, I'll diffuse the stress for you. It's okay.
it's like, dude, I'm already, I'm happy, man. I'm like, dude, how does he do that?
So,
Yeah.
what does the rest of y'all summer look like before school starts?
Hmm. I don't know. Mine is pretty quiet. I pretty much told you my plans for the most part. There's not a lot going on over here.
I am supposed anytime now to go back to Ivory Coast just to extend my visa. So that's a plan.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's terrifying, but also exciting because I've not been there in 5 years.
Yeah. Wait. Oh my gosh, you haven't.
Yeah, so
So that'll
Five
be
it's,
years is a
sometime.
long time, man.
I
I
mean,
have friends that are married now.
when you go, you're gonna want to be able to stay for a little while, right? So you should probably you'll be heading out soon so that you have a couple weeks before you have to come back.
We'll see. I almost don't want to stay a lot. I'm like, set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, nobody, I mean, of course, somebody is gonna be s- excited to see me, but like, don't expect to come back to what you left.
Right.
Is kind of what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
I have changed, and these people have changed, and like, it is so insane. Like, I was talking, like, one of my best friend there, like, got married, and when I left, he didn't even know of that girl.
Dang.
He didn't even know
Yeah.
it, and now guess what? He's married to her. So I'm just like, that is, I have so much to catch up on.
Well, I figure you probably won't have a lot of time to meet everyone you want to meet and do everything you want to do.
It's
You know,
impossible.
like there's a lot
It'll
of
be,
catching up that needs to happen. You know, and so you may just have to pick and choose. But
it's impossible because it's, again, my first language. It's like the first 18 years of my life were there. Like in the US, I feel like I'm like a 5 years old because I spent 5 years here. So you don't have that much connections. Like I see my friends that have always been in Houston. They're like, oh, I just saw a high school friend, and I'm like, it's almost impossible for me to meet even an Ivorian.
Right.
But when I go there, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home. Like that, all these connections, like high school, church, like, everybody, like so hundreds of people, and I'm like, it's gonna be impossible to meet everybody.
mm,
But it's almost, I spent so much time here now that it's almost easy to stay here than to go back.
mm,
I'm not even sure I'm gonna understand the country when I go back. Like, yeah. So that's the rest of my summer.
mm.
I think you told us yours. Do you have like, I don't know, like when now that you're out of college, but I guess you're going into studying again. But I was talking to a friend recently. She graduated and she's going to start her job now. And she's like, "Oh my god, like her program was like as intense as a cohort. So all she was thinking about was studying until like she was handed the degree.
Mm.
And she was like, "Oh my god, like what am I gonna do with my life? Like it's not
Yeah,
all about
like
study now.
kind
It's
of a
about
deer in
work."
headlights moment where it's like, oh, I have to get a job now, or like,
Well, it's
where am I going to
hard.
It's
live,
more
or
of like,
what's going on? You know?
what's gonna be the meaning of my life? Like before it was getting good grades, right? And now you're into real life, like making those decisions about like she was talking to me like, do I want a family? Do I not want one? Like when? Or like where do I want to live? Like I can go anywhere. Like, where do I
Oh,
want to live? Or like,
Yeah.
what is my life gonna be
yeah.
like?
Like finally you have total autonomy, and now it's like, well, what am I gonna do with it?
Yeah, right. It's like
Yeah.
you're paralyzed by the freedom. You're like, wait, how do I,
Yeah,
how do you reckon with that? It's weird because school is your identity for 4 years, and whatever you're involved in terms of extracurriculars and organizations, like that's who you are. So being separated from that is really weird. And I kind of went through that at the beginning of the summer. I'm like, who am I without Sitsa? Who am I without all of these things that like was my personality, for a while. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird. And yeah, my new personality is going to be, school again. But it's weird because, like a lot of us are saying, our friends are having kids or getting married, or, these people that we've known since childhood have entered into different stages of their life than we even feel that we're at right now. And that's weird. Like, I'm turning 23 next week, and I'm like, 23, like I know so many people that like got married at 18 or 19, and it's
yeah.
almost like, god,
Oh hell. No.
how,
Oh,
yeah,
I
it's
had a friend who was married at 20, and they're having a kid in September, and that's throwing me off. He was like a high school friend of mine, but like things like that. Like I know a bunch of people that I knew from high school who are already married, and again, they're the same age as me. They're 21 years old or younger, you know.
I'm 23 and I'm not even. Dude, I'm trying to get my degree.
Yeah,
No, I feel like my crisis is gonna be far worse because I am like, what threw me off the most was again my move to my of my parent to Spain. That's really what
right.
threw me off the most because I always felt like I could go back to Ivory Coast. Like, if nothing, like if I don't feel like I can be here, like I can just go back there. And when they left, all of a sudden my thought about Ivory Coast changed. I'm like, it's not gonna be the same if we are not there. And I don't wanna be in Spain. So where am I? Like, and if I'm here, like I need to I obviously here on visa. So it's
Man,
I
when you go back to Ivory Coast, then you're not even going to see your parents. You'll just
yeah,
see other people that you grew up with, but not even. Oh, that is weird. Yeah, I had forgotten that your parents moved to Spain. That's tough, man. That's really tricky. It's like your whole identity
yeah.
again is you're like, okay, well, like, what is home? You know?
yeah,
What is home?
Yeah.
yeah.
I I know it's not Texas.
You know, I was
Texas.
talking to my sister's husband. He's like, I don't know, maybe 10 years older than me or something. But I was telling him basically, he was asking me like, "Oh, what kind of season of life are you in? What's going on?" And I was basically telling him that like, there's a lot of things in my life right now that are kind of fading away from me. Like, uh, a lot of high school friends I used to have, I'm not seeing nearly as much. There are some of them that I haven't seen in a year. Um, and then just like family, a lot of family members I've known have like gone off or come back, or like it's been years since I've checked up on them sometimes in any meaningful way. So generally, like I feel more and more kind of adrift from the family I've known, and even the people I know in like the coad. There's only a couple people kind of in the Houston sphere that I think I'm really close with, and then for the most part, it's kind of again sort of loose. And even then, once university ends, we'll probably all scatter to the four winds, and we won't have a lot of opportunities to check up on each other. So generally, I've had this like creeping rise of like being adrift, and like my home is my duffel bag that I keep all my clothes in. Like I'm always moving all the time. I've moved maybe 3 or 4 times just this summer between like living spaces, um, and I think like when I have to answer the question of what is home to me, I think home is going to end up being the kind of safe feeling environment I build around me. So like when I was talking a little earlier about like finding like contentment or the peace of mind or the people you know, um, I think home is those things or like whatever space and environment you've built or have fashioned around you that makes you feel comfortable and like yourself, you know? But ultimately, a lot of that has to do with just who you are and what you actually want. So, definitely in this season of life, I think it's hard to feel like that's concrete because you're constantly being forced to move around or change your environment, you know? Um, you can't stay in one environment for long enough to establish it as like, this is my safe space, this is my home, before you have to pick up all your stuff and leave again, you know? Um, I think that's why my duffel bag or my pickup truck feels like home to me more than anything else right now. Even my childhood home doesn't feel like home to me, really. It's more my duffel, but you know, my friends, my really close friends, some of my family, and my duffel bag and my truck. That's home for now.
I
Wow.
I wish. I don't know, man. What's home?
Yeah.
I
I don't think it's a bad thing either. I think it's just this is the season,
no,
you
yeah.
know?
I definitely keep want to explore the world. Like I feel like when I was leaving Ivory Coast, I was afraid of like I'm not gonna find friend here. Like I'm gonna learn another language, another culture. I'm just gonna immediately miss Ivory Coast. And I went to Dallas. I did community college, and like I found friends. I established a network and things like that. And then when it was time to move to Houston, I was scared again because I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna find friends in Houston. It's gonna be hard. I had all this good network in Dallas. Why leaving that? Then I come to Houston and it works again. So now I'm feel confident. I'm just like, okay, I can keep doing it a few more times.
Yeah.
So yeah, West Coast, East Coast. I don't know.
I think in a way it's kind of nice to not feel like you've got a concrete home either because it means that there is an opportunity for you to think about what you would like that to become. Um, and you have an opportunity to shape your ultimate environment and your ultimate circle of people into whatever you kind of want it to be. There's a certain level of uncertainty to that where it's like, okay, if I
Yeah,
go to this random place, am I really going to find my people in my place? But, you know, I think it's a lot easier to find than you think, you know? Or like if you go to a place and it's not like you're really not living in comfort there and like, you know, everything about your life is like coming apart at the seams, you can always pack up and move. You know, I think sometimes it's easier to do that than we think it is, you know, or it's easy to trick yourself into thinking you're stuck somewhere when you're really not.
Mm.
yeah.
But I
One
don't
funny
know.
thing about living is that you can just lie to people. Like you just reinvent yourself. You
Yeah.
know as much about me that I know that I tell you. It's kind of insane. Don't
Yeah.
you think? I
Yeah.
might be like a criminal where I'm from.
Or like, you know, people used to like being able to just pack up and move anywhere and run into a totally different group of people. That's kind of a new thing. Like, that's a very 20th, 21st century kind of thing to do. Um,
Yeah,
in the past,
think
it was
about
a
it.
lot harder to just pack up all your things and travel
And
without
you
like
can
fear
just
of
go to
risk.
North Carolina and put your hair black and be like, my hair were always black, and we'll just
Yeah,
believe you.
yeah, you know. So I would say exploit that freedom if you want to, you know, or
Yeah.
like
Have you thought
recognize that
about
it's there at the
Right.
very
Right.
least.
Yeah.
I have a question. Have you thought about reinventing yourself when you go there?
That's funny because I have. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Oh my god.
not that I'm gonna do it, but I've considered the prospect of that being, something that I could do if I felt. I mean, I was even sort of thinking about this when I was at work. I was just thinking about how, like, whenever you were in school for 4 years or whatever, like everyone knows you, and it's like your school identity, whatever. Like you've gone there, everyone knows you for who you are. But even it's like starting a job somewhere, your coworkers don't know anything about you. Like, how do you, like, you're figuring out how to present yourself in a way because the things that you do are different at work than the actions that you're doing at school or what. It's like a different setting, so people are maybe evaluating you in a different way because you're performing different things, if that makes sense. um so I was just sort of thinking the other day, like, I wonder if the personality or the way that people perceive me at work is the same as like people that know me from school or something like that. Not that you're like trying to be inconsistent, but you just like you wonder how you are perceived, I guess. Which made me also think about going to a new place where no one knows you at all. You can change yourself, I guess, if you want to. But I don't know. I don't want to change myself, I don't think. It's just sort of nerve-wracking to make new friends. That's the scariest part, because like you don't have any like built-in, you know,
Networks, right?
networks, right? You have to like build respect from the ground up and that kind of thing. But that's okay. That's
Yeah.
life. But yeah, it's funny you think that the have I thought about reinventing myself? I have, but I don't think I would want to.
I'll
Okay.
tell you right
One
now, I
definitely.
have the hardest time introducing myself because I don't like labeling myself as any particular thing or saying like, "Oh, this is me, this is what I do,
Right, right,
and that's
right.
all I ever do." It's like, no, no, wait, like I feel like I really dislike the sort of like write three things about you on a note card
Yeah,
and read them out to people,
I
and
hate that. I
you
hate
know,
I hate describing
it's
myself.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like there is no real solid definitive thing about me because I'm a human being, or it's really hard to nail down like a definitive thing without being weird, you know? Because the things that are definitive about me and do not ever change, if I wrote those down, people would be like, "You are being way too deep here." That's not what people want to hear. What people want to hear is like, "Oh, do you like a movie? Is this your favorite movie or something?" And it's like, "Well, my favorite movie changes all the time." I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
for me, I try to avoid that almost at all costs and just be myself day to day and moment to moment so that people can come to know me or
Right.
build a view of me how they kind of perceive it. And it's not like me trying to project something onto them, right? Or like project a representation of myself onto them. It's more just they can come to know me as they see me, right?
yeah.
Um,
And
but
I guess
it makes my life
one.
very difficult that I'm highly averse to that kind of thing.
No, but like, what if you were living in an environment where, for example, there was a side of you that you could not express in that environment, and now you go in a space where you can actually express that. I'll
Mm.
give an example for me. Ivory Coast, me in Ivory Coast, I was kind of like, again, like regarded as like the good kid, like the one that you tell your kids to be like him.
Yeah.
And that was stressful for me. Like that's been a part of my adolescence, to be like the one you should compare to, and like kind of set that expectation of like being, I don't know, never saying the wrong thing. And one thing I was burning to do, and that I did immediately when I came here, is swearing.
Really?
I wanted to swear so bad my whole life. It felt like I could not. And then coming to people who are like, fuck, and like we're just like, okay, I guess that's how it is. That's how he is. He's always been like that. And I'm like, thank you. Yes. I always wanted to say that.
See,
That's
that's
kind of
I think that's
what.
hilarious because I've made a conscious effort to not do that. my whole life.
Yeah,
And like it's like no one told me that I had to make a conscious effort to do that. I just intentionally run that way.
Mhm.
I
But
appreciate that. I
I
feel
think
like
I think it's funny.
if it wasn't imposed on me as a child, maybe I would have like made a conscious.
Yeah.
It's me rebelling.
Right, right.
That's great.
Like, yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, as you know, as much as I'd like to say that I keep my language super duper clean, um, definitely when like something surprising and something that upsets me happens, things will slip out, and absolutely, my thoughts are polluted sometimes with profanities.
That's such a nice way of saying it. My thoughts are polluted.
Yeah.
I've never seen Anne swearing at all.
Really?
Mm.
I think you're like Nick.
I mean, yeah, every once in a while. It's not like a conscious thing one way or another. It's just sort of, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. I'm happy.
If you're surrounded by
Well,
people like Kadmiel all the time, like I am, it's hard to
listen.
keep your thoughts clear of profanity. I have a
Listen.
lot of friends who have no problem with foul language.
I mean, there are foul language that will shock me myself, but yes, I say my thoughts the way they are, and I spent
Yeah.
18 years not being able to do that, so I'll keep it that way.
Sheesh.
Well, I think it's 2 hours now. Uh,
Let's
any
see. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
a good conversation. Love to have you. And
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you
uh,
so much for asking me. This was such a joy and a surprise and an honor. So I appreciate it very much.
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, I
thank
hope
you.
you can attend another time, and definitely thank you for coming this time. It was a wonderful
Thank
conversation.
you. Hopefully, if I can come back, I can report back on, you know, cool research or, something that like I'm working on that might be interesting to share at some point. So,
Yeah. Or it can even
But
just be like,
or it
how
could
are
just be
things
just
going?
this.
Or like, yeah.
maybe you just update us. Maybe you find the answer to happiness.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh my gosh, what a task that lays before me.
Yeah.
You have all the remaining of your life to figure it out.
Mm.
Oh, well, y'all take care. Thank you again for having me
All right.
on.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, people. Stay humble and bye.